New Year's to everybody out there. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for taking the time to watch. Whether you watch this now live or you watch this in the rerun, I do appreciate you spending some of your valuable time doing so. It's really been appreciated this year. You guys have been great. Thank you so much. So, let's see here. Let's make all of our adjustments here. James, hello. Welcome. Thank you for showing up, sir. All right, we've got something weird going on here with this screen. Let me see if yeah, that doesn't help. Yeah, well, that'll have to do for now. All right, at least we got something. Frederick, I see you too. All right, now I can see everybody. Welcome. Happy New Year's, guys. Happy New Year's to you. Well, it's not Sunday at Mike's tonight. We're doing Saturday Night Live and Saturday Night Mic Check tonight. The Saturday Night Mic Check. I thought we would do that tonight instead of tomorrow night. There is no way in God's green earth that you would hear me tomorrow night anyway, because the fireworks are off the chart here on New Year's Eve. It is something. They have these things called cobras, which are the best I can figure. When I was a kid, we had these things called M80s. It's basically a quarter stick of dynamite. And you could buy these at certain spots if you knew where to, when back in the 70s. Uh, and actually, where a lot of Culver City actually had a big vacant lot that's now a strip mall, that's where they would sell fireworks at. So I'm hip to, kind of, loud fireworks, but these things are off the charts. And it's not just lighting one M80 or one of these Cobras, they do like 10 of them at a time. And it's just crazy. So I couldn't do a live stream tomorrow night, even if I wanted to. There's no way you would hear me. And that's just the fact of it. Funny though, I don't mind it. I'm very lucky to be living in the heart of Amsterdam. It's got its pluses. Everything is around me, so I don't have to really have a car. That's always a bonus because I'm tired of driving. I've been driving for so many years now. You do get tired of it. And also, but one of the down things is that, when these big events go by, I open up the window. I think I showed it in a live stream that I did here. I opened up my window and there's like 10,000 people going by down below. So it's interesting. It's quite different from Singapore or Japan or even the UK, I'll tell you that much. Although one morning I lived in a house in this area of the UK called the Blackheath. And I opened up my window and actually I was watching TV and they were doing this live stream of the start of a marathon. I was like, hey, that looks familiar. And I opened up my window, look out, and the helicopter is going around. It's literally on the Blackheath. So yeah, I guess I've had that kind of happen before, but it's always funny. Well, Christmas is over. I don't know how you guys did with your Christmas presents this year. I hope Santa was good to you. You didn't get a lump of coal in your stocking. I didn't this year. I didn't get very many things because there's actually not much that I wanted. Actually, I got things more geared towards this channel. And also for, it's actually really geared towards this channel, to be honest with you. And as you know, I went down the Temu route there because I was so upset with getting ripped off on the local kind of Craigslist thing, Mark Plots, and really kind of upset about that. And so I did the Temu thing. I started ordering items from Temu because I was, where can I find cheap parts from to put together these parts casters I like to do as a project for myself. And I went the Temu route for a hot minute, like a real hot minute. And I really also at the same time dug into Temu and got to understand that it's basically, you know, not a place that you really want to support. Ben, welcome. I'm so glad you guys showed up. I thought if I did it a day early, I would be talking to myself like that Billy Idol song. I was dancing with myself. This is talking to myself. But you guys are here. I'm really happy. You guys are really awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Happy New Year's to you, Ben. Yeah, and I made the decision that that's not the kind of company that I want to support for a lot of reasons. And but I did put in an order with them. That was the very last one. It's the only one that I'll do. It was the two. I put in two orders with them. One a small one just to see how it worked out. It's just some small stuff that I got, and then the second one was a little bit more stuff. And I broke it up. Some of it I had to use immediately, but the other half I put away for Christmas and didn't really look at. Wrapped it up and said that I open it up on Christmas and share it with you guys. And so the first thing that I want to talk about this evening is the Temu products that I got and my thoughts on them. You know, it's one thing to say to yourself, well, okay, I'm saving money, you know, because it's super. I mean, it's cheap. It's you can't really beat it, especially with the free shipping. What they're offering on some things as compared to what you comparatively to what you would find in the secondary market. But you know, is it worth it? You know, are they quality parts or are they good enough parts? Really, we'll settle for good enough in this case, because heck, we're talking about Temu. Are they good enough to do the job? And I have to say to you, yeah, but it's got some caveats to it. And well, I'll share with you first. Um, Let me see. Can I take this out without? No, I can't. I was gonna kind of do this where make you guys guess which was which, but kind of gives it away when you look at the paper sheet on there. But um, here we have two Strat trim systems. Now, this one obviously with the paper on it, this is the most recent one from Temu. This is the one that actually comes off a 2001 Stratocaster, 2003 Stratocaster SE. And I, just looking at them um, in terms of the quality of the sum of the whole, I would say that they're basically kind of equal in that. Of course, this one being 20 years old, it's held up. It's held up. I would ask myself, would this trim hold up for 20 years? This one from Temu. One thing that I like to show to you is the size down here of the plate. And you can see there's a significant, I mean, these early Squire, and maybe even now, but these early Squire SE trims had a very, very, very thin, most people consider plate down there, and block. And even so, it's of a substantial weight. It may have been a very thin block on here, but to be honest with you, it's not that bad. You know, a lot of people replace them. I replaced this off my SE when I was doing that build, but I kept it around because it's still a decent trim system. But I thought to myself, well, let me get a newer one because I wanted to, if it didn't work out, I could use the parts of this and couple, and do a Frankenstein kind of trim system here out of it. But the block down there down at the bottom here of the Temu part is significantly smaller. And will also note that this is the lightest Strat trim that I've ever had. I mean, this thing is super light. This has some heft to it, actually. It really does. And so that's one thing. This is 20 years old and it's held up. It's held up, and that's just the fact of it. You can say what you want about they were cheap, they were this, that, or the other, but heck, it held up for 20 years. So that gives it high marks. This one, it may hold up. I just don't know. It's just inferior. Down here where the block meets the plate, here it's very seamless with the welding they did, or ever how I guess, yeah, it's got to be welding. The weld on here is a bit of a gap, and I looked at it to see if that was a matter of it being not straight, and no, that's not the case. It's just the way that it was constructed, not as good as this in some regards. A lot lighter, so a lot lesser materials than this as well. So there's that. Will it do the job? Is it good enough, Mike? Yeah, yeah. For a trim, yeah, it would do the job, especially if you lock yours down, you deck your trims like I do. I deck my trims. For decking your trim, it's okay. But to be honest with you, if I had a choice between these two parts at this moment to use, I'd probably still go with this older 20-year-old part, because it's got a lot more going for it than this one, even though this is newer. Um, I might consider replacing this, taking the springs out of this and replacing these with new springs. But there's that. So is it good enough? The Temu part in this case, the two, yeah. But an interesting thing, yeah, is that one of the things about these older Affinity or SE early strats, again, or maybe even up to current, as I seem to recall, is that the whammy bar, if you lost it or it broke, it was very difficult to find one that fit within that older trim system. It was very hard to find one that worked. This is a Temu whammy bar, and this is the 20-year-old SE trim, and actually it fits in perfectly, which supports the theory that I had when I was showing you that body that I got, that part of the order that I got, the white body, strat body, that the dimensions were exactly the same as a Squire CV, and see like a CV50s, 60s, 70s, about the same dimensions as that. And I felt that they were copying a lot of Squire stuff. Well, I think that this also supports that a little bit, because I have other trim bars up here, and they don't fit inside of the older Squire trim system that I have here. This one does, interestingly enough. So there's something there. I'm sure they've got the plates or whatever for Squires, and they're pumping out the parts for them. And I think that's what you're getting. You're getting copies of Squire parts, basically, and that goes for some of the other parts that I got uh, from Temu, and they're not as good. I don't know if I don't have a current affinity to determine if the block is the same size as the current ones or not. I suspect it might be because again, this 20-year-old one, it's a small block, but it's got some heft to it. It's not cheap, and again, like I said, it's held up for 20 years. So there's that. But I think they're copying Squire parts mostly with a lot of this stuff that you'll find on Temu in the music section. Now, another thing that I got, as you know, I have this 2001 Squire Affinity body. This is an outer body, so this is a really great body that I've been working on getting it ready, prepping it, and getting it ready to do a paint job on it. And of course, one of the nightmares when you're doing a parts caster, when you're putting these together, is finding a neck. You can get the body. I have the body, but I don't have a neck for it. And again, the idea of going to the secondary market here in the Netherlands is just not something that appeals to me. And very rarely will you find, even some of the smaller music stores will just have a neck. So you're kind of caught between, you're in nowhere land as far as that's concerned. So again, I turned to Temu and I ordered a neck. So this is the neck that I got from Temu. It's a roasted maple neck with abalone inlays here. It's stated as being California maple. And yeah, this is the neck that I got from Temu. And that is going to be the neck that is going to go with this body once the paint job is done. And you can imagine, I'm with this neck and this body, I'm really thinking about, heck, what kind of paint. I had an idea of a charcoal gray, but now that I look at this neck, my brother and I were looking at it before as I was wrapping up. I took a little sneak peek to show it to him since he was here. And he was like, hey man, you're gonna have to go with an interesting color to go with that neck. So I've had to rethink the charcoal gray. Ben says it's a good looking neck. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is. And that's the thing. Again, the dimensions of this neck, it doesn't have, this has the dimensions of a current Squire, to be frank with you, again, CV. It feels like that. It's got that kind of feel to it of a CV neck. It is actually gorgeous. I will agree with that a lot. The inlays on this thing is really nice. And for the price of this was 50 euros. So for 50 euros, to get it delivered professionally with no issues, to receive it in one piece and packed professionally, they actually really packed it really, really well. That was an interesting thing. However, I will never order from Temu again. As I've told you, I have issues with Temu in terms of what kind of company they are. And I don't really feel the need to support that kind of company after digging into it. It's basically was a 12 hours a day, or I forget. I'm sorry, I 996 or something like that. It's ridiculous hours that you have to work, 9 hours a day, just slaving away, and then overtime sometimes you have to do for free, basically. They commit you to that. So I won't be ordering from them anymore, but I have to say that they did deliver in terms of this neck. Now, is it good enough, Mike? Is the question. It looks good, shiny apple. Is it any good? And if you weren't basically boycotting them at this point, after this point, would you buy another one from them again? I guess would be two fair questions. The first thing is the fret test. Is how do I need to dress these frets? And the answer is absolutely, absolutely. Out of the box, these are going to need to be crowned. I mean, they're going to need a little bit of work. I did a rocker test on it. I don't have my rocker here, just to go up and down and see. Actually, the frets set in, I couldn't find any raised frets. Actually, I was actually impressed with the fret job. It's the edges. Usually, and that's typical with import guitars anyway. You get these really rough edges on the frets. So these are going to need to be addressed. I started working on this one a little bit this morning just to see how it is. And yeah, these are stainless steel frets, I think they said. No, nickel frets. So nickel frets. So interesting. The next thing going up the neck is the nut. The nut is a little bit off center. I don't know if you guys can see that there, but it's hanging out there a little bit. And interesting enough, it's flush on this side. So they cut the nut here, or they set it in somehow not quite correct. And so the first thing that I would really do, hey, Happy New Year, who's here? Hey, how you doing? Happy New Year. Quite a moniker you got there. Can I call you Tano? Is that good enough? Happy New Year, Tano. Happy, welcome, welcome. Yeah, this nut is cut terribly, and in that regard, and I don't know if that is gonna be an issue with string alignment or not. So I will have to invest in a bone nut for this. I'll have Fern cut the nut, and I'll probably put it in myself. But yeah, I'll have to invest in a bone nut. So, but if I have him do it and cut it, it's not that expensive, and if I do the work at the setting of it, um, but that is something that has to be done. Now, moving up the neck, we get to the holes here. These are 10 millimeter holes on this, so that's how I know that this is really modeled after a CV. So these are 10 millimeter slots in here. The slots are not drilled through all the way for some reason on some of these. This one at the very top is the worst offender. I put the bushings in because I have bushing converters, so I can, because my tuners are actually 8 millimeter, so it's a converting down. So it takes these 10 and turns them down to 8. And in the case of this one, the bushing won't even go in because it's drilled. It's just slotted, so it's drilled so bad. So that can be remedied. I can actually put the bushing in, put a cloth over that, and with a mallet tap it in, and that will straighten that out. I don't think it would do any damage or cracking to the headstock there, but that's always a danger. So is it good enough? Yeah, it's everything else on it is good. It's fine. It'll work, but it's not perfect out of the box. This is not usable out of the box. If you don't know how to do that kind of work, or have the skills to do replace the nut, do a little bit of work here in order so that the bushings fit correctly, then yeah, you're gonna have a problem. And so no, I would say that actually this is kind of a bit, once that work is done, once this gets drilled, so that's right, and once this nut gets replaced, then yeah, it's gonna be awesome. But and also the level crowning as needed for these frets. That's work that you're going to have to do yourself, that I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to do the level on this to save money. I'll have Fern cut the nut, but it's still going to cost me materials and his time. And I'm going to have to try to see if I can get those bushings to fit without drilling. I can ream these. I do have the right size to drill this again, but I don't want to do that. So we'll see a little work. But again, so there's going to be some work that has to be put into these parts. And you have to ask yourself, really, is it worth it for 50 euros for that neck? Yeah, I think you're getting, I'm sure that it's catch, can. Andrew 357, just put a pre-cut graph tech task that, yeah, I could do that as well. But if I'm going to go ahead and replace the nut, I would prefer to do bone, to be honest with you. If you're going to make that step, if you're going to have the ice cream, you might as well put the whipped cream and the cherry on it. And the sauce out, and the, fudge or whatever you go for, sauce. So yeah, I always go with bone nuts when I replace them. That's just a thing that I've got myself hooked into. But you're correct, I could do that as well. But you have to ask yourself, hey, wait a minute here, uh, the hardware that I've received from them so far, yeah, it's usable. It's good enough. With this neck, no. Unless you have the skills to do that kind of work, yourself, or you got a really, a good but inexpensive luthier to do that, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a little bit of work. Not a lot, not a lot, but it is not perfect out the box. Now, that being said, again, I think for 50 euros, which is about, what is that, uh, 54 or something like that bucks or something like that, 56 bucks. I think to get a California maple roasted neck is a pretty good deal for a parts caster that you're trying to do as inexpensively as possible. I think it fits that perfectly. Now if you're trying to do it and you're trying to save money, yeah, that's great if you can do the work that it's going to need in order to get it up to snuff. Um, so you have to take that into consideration. And so I'm no longer buying anything from Temu. As I said, I'm not interested in a 996 company, but and also a lot of their practices, and also reports that they're no better than TikTok stealing information from your phone if you put their app on. So yeah, that's a whole lot of stuff that I don't want to get into personally, and I'm not really a big fan of that kind of what they're doing in terms of driving low cost. So that has a downward trend effect where everything ends up where they're producing stuff like this. That's it's good enough, but I don't know. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of pounds of pressure on this, and I look at this welding down here, critical area, and I think to myself, well, it's not as good as they were doing in China 20 years ago, because this is a Chinese part as well. But this 20-year-old part, it's held the test of time, and it's a lot more substantial than this current stuff that I got from Temu. Tono says 50 euros isn't bad considering a Fender branded neck is 300. Yeah, dig that. To 350, which is nearly the cost of a used made. Yes, dig that. That is correct. I mean, again, I'm kind of new to the Fender parts caster thing, or just working on them, and I was shocked on the prices. Warm off necks, those things are $500. And again, a Fender branded 300 to 350, yeah, easy. So yeah, considering it, yeah. I mean, and again, it's a good neck. I'm not taking anything away from this. This is actually is as advertised. It is a roasted a California roasted maple neck. Got a lot of flame to it. Interesting. Like I said, it's going to lead me to really think about what color I'm going to paint the body now. Charcoal gray may not be working anymore for me. But again, it does need some work. And but for 50 bucks, yeah, it's kind of worth it. If you can do the work, you got yourself a bargain in that regard. But at what cost? Again, like I said, and again, it puts me back to zero. I think I've been saying a few times in terms of where am I going to source my parts going forward if I'm not going to do the Temu thing. I don't know. I'm going to have to really think about it. But I'm not going to go that route. I'm satisfied with the things that I got. I basically bought an entire body, neck, and most of the parts for a Strat Podcaster. So I bought almost, and the tuners as well. Yeah. So I bought 100% of everything you would need to put together our parts. As now, one body went here, one neck went here, and it didn't go to make it into one guitar, but it used to basically replace some parts on some other projects where I thought it fit better. And I'm satisfied with them. I had to shim the neck pocket and do some things to make it work with the Temu Strat body. But it worked out. It's looking good. Fern has it. He's finishing it up. So I think that I'm satisfied would be the answer to it. But I don't know, guys. I can't support a 996 company like that. I can't do it. So there's that. I had a question last week, and I threw it out there Still staying on topics tonight. Tonight's topic is a stealth topic. We're going to talk about strats and parts casters. By the way, as you know, I always have a running thread through every one of these live streams that I do, and my notes. Sometimes I'll fill up both sides of the paper with notes. Sometimes just a few bullet points. But as I look through my bullet points here, we're talking about parts casters tonight and strats in particular because I could do a year-end roundup. I could talk about the year review or equipment and review or things of that nature. But to be frank with you, 2023 in terms of equipment, there were some breakthroughs that came out. I think that a lot of the modeling pedals that have come out, especially in the last quarter, are astounding. I still think the prices of them, and I think the sales of them as well, has bore out that whereas they are astounding, their prices are just, they're not general consumer electronics. What do I mean by that? When I worked in the studios growing up in the 80s and the 90s, early 2000s, the big studios all over the world, you had studio gear. You'd have an Eventide, you'd have a lexicons, and you'd have the racks of them. And these were not things that most people at that time would have in their own home studios, unless they were a pro mixer. And with the advent of softwaring a lot of those things, it made it more widely available. But the price was the one main key component that kept it away from most consumers at the time when it was just hardware. You really couldn't afford those things. Those things were $4,000 or $5,000 back in the time when that was a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but it was a lot of money back then. Think of what you think of a lot of money, and a lot more than that. And so we didn't have those in our studio, especially SE unit that Jock and I was doing most of our demo work out of. We didn't have a lot of that stuff. We had more of like the lesser equipment, the companies that were priced so that they fit the consumer market. And I get a feeling that a lot of these current innovations with some of these pedals that are coming out is fantastic, but I do believe that their pricing feels like no, it's nowhere near in the 5,000. That's not what I'm not equating exactly, but I'm saying that I feel like they're more geared towards the pro market as opposed to the general consumer market, much in the same way. And so I could go, but at the same time, and that's just the reality of it. And they don't sell, but the people who buy them aren't really selling them either. You're not going to find a lot of them, especially universal audio panels, as you know, I've been looking for a long time for one. Let's go over here to Reverb. Uh, Yeah, let's see if there's any. No, no, no. They just don't come up. And for resale. So that's a good thing. That means that they're quality. And so, I think that they are of quality and they are good. I just think that they're overpriced and and again, sales bear that out. They are selling, but they're not selling like hotcakes. So that would sum up my product review of the year. I think summing up gear this year, I would say that we had some advantages. There were some things in there that really the Spark amp. I know it's a little older, but it really took off, especially in the early part of this year. Um, More in the consumer area in terms of pricing. That was a success. Um, I think that a lot of the guitars that were popular this year bore out again by their price. I think the $500 to $600 range guitar was most people's sweet spots. Yeah, I don't think people we remember one aspect of that huge 400% sales increase during the COVID time is that Americans and a lot of other countries were giving out checks. And yeah, some people needed that check in order to pay bills, but some people didn't. And the first thing that a lot of cats did is like, let me buy 4 or 5 guitars with this money, that's this free money, which isn't free, by the way. It costs, those guitars cost you a lot. But anyway, I won't get into that. Everybody was buying 4 or 5 of them. Dig that. And I think of a lot of people. Maddie, 2 hats. Yeah, early live this week, man. Tomorrow night is the big event here, and I'm at the head of the Lies playing, man, and it is going to be so loud that forget about it. You wouldn't hear every other word between the explosions and the flashing lights behind me here. But thank you for showing up, man. Happy New Year's to you. Um, yeah, man. Just that's just my review of this year, my thoughts of this year in terms of gear. And I had, I had a feeling, you know, quite a while back, if you guys remember, more, when I really first started doing this live stream, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about was the market. And I wanted to talk about, I kind of wanted to be a loudspeaker for, hey guys, you know, things are like this, and I predict that it's probably going to go this way because of A, B, C. And a lot of that stuff that I talked about has bore out. Boy, and howdy has it bore out. Even, you can kind of imagine it, but to actually see it, it's another thing altogether. And I always take the long view with things. It's a pro and a con of me that I have in terms of my thinking, but I always take the long view of things, looking at things. And so that's basically how that comes about. I'm no soothsayer or anything like that. I just have the ability to look where things could go, the possibilities of where things could go. And I saw this week, the last couple of weeks, that a lot of YouTube channels have been talking about how crappy the resale market is. And so I titled tonight's live stream, "Oh, so now you're selling," so now you're selling, I guess is how you would read that. Because it's funny to me to see channels like a Casino Guitars, channel that comes from a guitar shop out of Tennessee, Baxter, and I forget the other guy, nice guys. I don't always agree with them, but they're really nice guys. And they were bringing up the point this week that the used market is just trash. And they're a guitar shop, and they're saying this. And we've been talking about that here on Upstairs to Right Music channel for a long time. And it's not exactly clickbait to use that title, because I really don't want to get into it too much tonight. I don't want to rehash what we've already talked about. But I do want to bring up Dewey 7330. What's up, man? How you doing? How you doing? Happy New Year's to you. So, what's up, my chat? Don't know what the chat is? Yeah, we're having a chat tonight. We're having a chat tonight here. We're talking about a couple of things. But, just taking the long view of things, I just saw that the market was going to go to trash. And boy, you guys haven't seen nothing. I really think, if you're thinking about selling right now, anything, unless you really, 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 really have to do it. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Dewey. I wouldn't do it. And I'm talking about even, I just wouldn't do it. I said hold your powder to buy, but I think that, even that I would hold off on, really, unless you have to, unless you come across a deal. because the secondary market is cracking. All those guys who got and basically, yeah, you spent that money on the guitar, but a lot of it was relief checks, given, and especially in the States. I didn't touch it. I didn't take any of it. I, I had no interest myself, or need, but a lot of cats took that money and they were able to buy 4 or 5 guitars, and now, you know, they're trying. One of the reasons that I've speculated is that a lot of guys bought them at XYZ cost, and the reason the used market got screwed up is because they turned around and tried to sell them for the same price that they bought them for. Because hey, I spent my free money on this, and I'd like to try to get as much as that back now because I like the money more than the guitars. Don Juan Campbell, Happy New Year to you. All is good. Doing well, sir. Hope you're doing well too. Well, thank you so much, man. You guys are fantastic for showing up tonight. I was worried I had to do it a night early, but the fact that you are all here is just super awesome, and I'm so happy. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things that I wouldn't get involved in. If you don't have to sell, don't do it. Don't do it. That's all I really have to say on that subject. I just find it funny that there's so many YouTubers out there that are now talking about it and admitting that that's an issue. And it's like, yeah. One market I will say, because I don't want to be put negative, I always like to put a little positive on something in there, is the acoustic guitar market. The acoustic guitar market actually is doing okay, if not in some areas great. Go figure. Go figure. You know, the value of my Yamaha, my '99 Yamaha guitar, Japanese made in Japan one, is gone up actually a little bit. I'm surprised, and it's been hovering around the same price for years, and it's starting to rate. Patrick is here. Good evening to you, sir. A happy new year. Don't hold on to what you got, Don Juan Campbell says. Don't sell unless it's to upgrade. Dr. Powell is here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Let's make 2024 the best year ever. I couldn't disagree with them. I think that's a great way to look at it. Let's try to make it. I cannot disagree with that. Yeah, no, hold on to Don Juan again. Hold on to what you have. Don't sell. Yeah. I wouldn't do it, guys. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I would, because it's nasty. It's ugly. And, uh, and a lot of people, like I said, were hoping, they were expecting, but they are not going to get. And for a myriad of reasons of why they bought, so where they bought, and why they expect. But at the end of the day, story is no, it's not going to happen. The Saturday night special. Actually, I was kind of playing with calling it, the Saturday mic check. Saturday night mic check, something like that. But I like that one too. Saturday night special. Yeah, I remember that from back in the day. The Saturday night special. That was great. That was awesome. Awesome show back in the '70s, if you guys remember it. Don Kirshner's Saturday Night Special, I think is what it was called. But yeah, I wouldn't do it, guys. That's just the acoustic markets. Yeah, if you got acoustic guitars, this is a good time. I can't believe I can say this. This is a great time for you to look into selling it. If you're trying to move a quality acoustic guitar, then it's a good time to do it. Because honestly speaking, that is the one and only market that's doing well right now. I'm actually going to be looking into some Japanese acoustics myself coming up here. There may be more acoustic guitars than electrics coming up here, to be frank with you. So, in terms of a market, something that I think that is marketable. So there's that. You know, I had a question last week about getting back to parts casters, about when does a squire cease to become a squire and it's just a parts caster. And nobody really took the bait on that. I was a little disappointed because I kind of threw it out to class. Bueller, anybody? What your guys' thoughts were on the subject. Um, but I decided to come up with a list. Like for example, this is a Squire body. This is a 2001 Squire Affinity body, but this is a Temu neck. Most people would argue the 1/3 rule. They'll say that when you change 1/3 of your guitar parts, then it becomes automatically a parts caster. So I can't really say it's a Squire parts caster. Essentially a parts caster because I've changed 1/3 of that. I always question, okay, well, what happens if it's a Fender neck and you replace it with as aforementioned, Fender branded neck? Does that make that Fender a parts caster? And the answer actually in that case is yes. If you follow the 1/3 rule, if you replace all the electronics, for example, all the hardware, the trim, the bridge, the wires, the pickups, all that stuff, that even if you don't change the neck or the body, that's effectively making it a parts caster. That's the 1/3 rule. Believe it or not. I didn't think that before. I did a little bit of research into it, and that's the generally accepted rule out there is a 1/3 rule. If you've changed 1/3 of anything, the neck, the electronics, or the hardware, or the body, then you have a parts caster. Ben Allmark, Saturday Night Special is also a great Leonard Skinner tune. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I think that's where they got it from. To be honest, it had to. Where did that come from? Back then, always came from the title of a song. Back in the 70s. Not a lot of creativity. I don't know what that was about. But yeah, dig that. A Squire body and a Fender neck. Yeah. Then what is it? Is it then a Fender guitar? Could you pass it off as a Fender guitar? Could you say, well, it's got a Fender neck? And maybe even you say that in the parts, the hardware is a Fender parts. It's just got a Squire body. It's a Squire CV body, we'll say, for example. These are the things that make you go, but if you stick to the 1/3 rule and you just stay hard and fast with it, then yes, you've changed the neck, so it's a parts caster. Now, is it a Fender parts caster or is it a Squire parts caster? That's up to debate. But I thought I would make a list for our special tonight called Best Parts Caster Strats of All Times. Most of our guitar heroes, and I was surprised when I made this list. And this is the top five list of guys who played Strats that we will all know. So there will not be a name on this list that is not familiar. But I was shocked to find out in the case of each one of these, all of their Strats fit the 1/3 rule. They either changed the neck, they changed most cases the neck, they changed the electronics as well, and they turned them into parts casters. So again, is it a Fender? Well, but it's got a different Fender neck and a different body. That's basically still a parts caster. It's not. It didn't come out of the factory that way. Tommy Max in the house. Happy New Year. Then welcome, sir. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Boy, the gang's all here tonight. I didn't think you guys were going to show up. I am really touched that you guys came a day early to visit with the live stream here tonight. Spend your time. I didn't think you guys were going to show up. I said, well, I'm going to do it because I want to do it. I have some things to talk about. Plus, I want to say Happy New Year's to everybody. But to have everyone here is really a great thing. It's a great feeling. Let's look at the number one on my list is Eric Clapton's Blackie. Now, Eric Clapton's Blackie is made up of a different body and a different neck. And it can be more than said that the electronics were changed on it as well. It recently sold at auction for $1.4 million. A lot of that had to do. I had a feeling like a 1.395, of that money was because it was Eric Clapton's Blackie guitar. The rest of it was because it was a parts caster. So there's that. And hit the like button. Thank you, Patrick, Gene. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Hit that like button. 15 watching, 11 likes. Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's fill it in, guys. It really does help. If you're watching this on the rerun too, take a moment to hit the like button. Take a minute to do that for me. I do appreciate it. It does help so much. But yeah, Blackie Dig was a parts caster at the end of the day. It was a parts caster at the end of the day. Yeah, it was made of some pretty sweet parts, but at the end of the day, if we use that 1/3 rule with these guitars, as I said, as we go down this list, we'll discover that all of our famous Guitar Hero strats were all parts casters. Stevie Ray Vaughan, this is his #1 guitar. Again, another case of a different body and a different neck. And it can be well said that he's one of the most, even to this day, inspirational players of Stratocasters. Now, these were Fender parts in the case of the Blackie, in the case of Stevie Ray Vaughan's #1, but using again the 1/3 rule by removing that neck and putting a different one on, I think because he wore the first one out, something like that. Whereas Clapton just went for the feel. He liked the feel of this guitar. I like the neck better, but I like the sound and the body on this one. So that's how that happened. 1/3 rule says these are parts casters. Wow, take that. Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar. His Strat was a parts caster. Eric Clapton's Blackie, well-known guitar, parts caster. David Gilmour's Black Strat. Speaking of Black Strats, there is no John Mayer without Stevie. Oh yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. But just it's like that old Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell song, "Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing, Baby." I like John for what he does, but it doesn't have the fire. I mean, Stevie Ray Vaughan played like a man on fire. you know. And it's just a different thing altogether. They're both great players, but what I'm saying is that Steve Ray Vaughan is where he's at for a reason. Gilmour's Black Strat is a parts caster as well. Parts caster, again, another situation where a swapping of the neck and the body occurred. Interesting. Interesting. I'm going to put a pin in this and use this moment to point out an observation that I had the other night. I was watching a Japanese guitar player named Rolly. If you guys aren't familiar with him, Rolly, look him up on YouTube. Japanese guitar player, older guy. He had his own hair band back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s. In Japan, and he was doing a guitar clinic for a bunch of guitar otaku or guys who like to play guitar and had an interest in them. Don Juan Campbell, just about every major guitar icon has a parts caster. Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get to. I put a pin in that, but yeah, dig that. Just ponder upon that as I point this all out. Rolly's a pretty famous guy. Rolly has, but I think that's, again, Don Juan says, but I think that's the magic behind it too that inspired artists to play. Well, yeah, I mean, the reason Clapton said, hey, I like this neck with this body, and Stevie Ray Vaughan was a madman. John always said he just wanted to listenable, and I think he has that covered. Yeah, he's got it covered. It's a watered down. I didn't want to use the word watered down, but yes, that's what it is. Watered down Stevie Ray in some ways. But then he has his own thing, and I think that's where it's perfection. Like I told you that song. Listen to the "Welcome to the Real World," she said to me condescendingly. That's brilliant. That's some brilliant writing. lukewarm water. Yeah, yeah. But Rolly was having this, and there was about 12 guys. And Rolly, who could have any guitar that he wants, I know that was funny. Um, I like John too, but I think his lyricism, his lyrics are brilliant. Like I said, I really like that line. Um, but all of his students, with the exception of two, had what we wouldn't consider to be brand guitars. Most of them were Fernandez guitars. Most of them were Grecos. All of Rolly's guitars were Greco guitars, and this is a man who I know could play any, even up to any. He could buy any of Joe Bonamassa's Les Pauls. He's that top, and he's got that kind of layout. But I noticed that all his guitars were 70s Grecos. And all the students, all the younger people in the audience, all their guitars, there were only two guys who had Strats. One actually had Fenders. One had a Fender Strat, and one had a Fender Telecaster. And that was 2 out of 12 students. Everybody else had off-brand name guitars. And so I think that over there in Japan, it reminded me of the fact that it really wasn't about the guitar. That's why I didn't particularly care myself. I just wanted to get a good guitar. Oh, great, I could get this Fender's at this pawn shop and it's this price. This Fender Telecaster ended up being, one of my favorites. But it wasn't so much that it was a Fender. It was just, it was a good, I knew it was a good Strat. Tele. And so I found that interesting, guys. That they weren't interested. They're not interested in the name on the headstock over there. It's not really a big thing that they're attracted to. It's not something that is an issue with them. And yeah, I'm inspired by my John Mayer's versatility and depth, not just blues. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm a lyricist, so I look at a guy with what he writes, and I like his writing. I like his lyrics. I like this. I like that aspect of him. In terms of guitar, am I blown away by him? I think that for what he does, he has a long career ahead of him, because that music will always draw an audience where he can always do live shows. And I think the longevity of that is really a telling thing as well. Think of all the bands out there in the 80s that tried to copy Prince. How many of them made it and have any kind of longevity? Because they didn't have their own sound. He's found his own sound. So there's that. He has great songs, that's right. So, but just a Luke, but again, the comparison was with Stevie, his roots being in Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I would say he's watered it down. In life, he's exceptional. Anyway, I'll shut up about it. Yes, man, we got the point. You like John Mayer. I think we got it. And we are not disparaging him, but he is no Stevie Ray Vaughan. But that's okay because, again, very rarely do you ever get to the heights of your heroes. Sometimes you may exceed them in some rare cases, but in most cases, no. But that's okay because that's what they're there for. They're there to inspire. And that's okay. Who else we got here? Of course, Van Halen's on the list. What about Joe B? Joe B. You talking about Joe Bonamassa? I like Joe Bonamassa. Yeah, that's another thing. I've told you before, I like Joe Bonamassa, the person, in terms of way his generosity, in terms of giving his times, donations that he makes to charities, his guitar safaris where he goes out and buys cool stuff because he can, and his overall laid backness. I like that about him. In terms of his songs, could I tell you really one in particular? No, I couldn't. I couldn't name one John Mayer, I could name several songs, but Joe Bonamassa, no. I don't know if it's a generational thing, although I would probably be more, that paints me a lot younger than I am, but dig that. You are my other guitar inspiration, Mike. Tommy, man, I thank you so much. That actually means a lot to me. That means a lot to me. I appreciate you saying that. I try to play. My guy, you guys know my guitar hero of all time is Prince. Because I don't think there's anything that guy couldn't play, and really. And I like that. And he had that fire underneath him, but he also had that general audience kind of music as well. He was able to turn that and turn up the heat and make it not so lukewarm. It had a lot of, some heat to it, especially in his guitar playing. His solos were super tasty. Um, Gilmore Santana, Gary Moore, and John Mayer. Yeah, great guitar players. So, of course, Van Halen's Frankenstrat, a famous parts caster. I saw Prince live maybe 10 times. Yeah, I saw him the first time at the Forum in 1983. I'm sorry, at the Universal Amphitheater in 1983. Next time was at the Forum in LA twice. I saw him in the UK once, Japan once. I think that was the last time I saw him was in Japan. I love Joe Bonamassa and John Mayer, both phenomenal in their own right, but Prince is my main top. Yeah, to be honest with you, those guys are great. And Prince complained because he said Rolling Stone, and those guys are worthless, said that I play like Hendrix. He says, I don't play like Hendrix. I want to play pretty like Santana. He considered his guitar hero was Carlos Santana. A lot of the media put the Hendrix, comparison out there because, hey, it's two black guys who play guitar. But no, Prince was heavy into Santana as a kid, and that was his guitar. And you can hear Santana in his solos. You can hear the Santana in them if you know Santana well. Prince songs, Bambi, Wild Guitar Playing, yeah. And that was 1979 that came out, And just a great guitar player. Who else do we have on this list? But anyway, you got my point. Is that most of our famous guitar players who played Strats, almost all of them were playing parts casters. So it makes you rethink, and that was again the idea anyway, was that these were modular designs that Leo Fender was putting together. He was making modular designs. If this wears out, then we can easily swap that. It made it a lot easier. He didn't make them set neck. That's one of the reasons. Richie Sambora is heavily influenced by Steve Ray Vaughan too, and he's my number one dude. Richie Sambora is bad, but Richie Sambora, again, he's another guy who took it, but he made it his own thing. Johnny Wawa Guitar Watson, if any of you get a chance to check out, was way ahead of his time with the guitar solos in the 50s. Yeah, Johnny Wawa Guitar Watson. Check him out. Absolutely. There's a reason why they call him Wawa. You will find that out when you check it out. Also, Prince song I'm Yours from 78. Yeah. And you can see that. And how old was he at the time? 19 years old? He's 19. And he already had it. He had it in there. You could hear the Santana in there. They let him as playing space guitar. Yeah. Back then, they weren't into all that. It's just like that scene from Back to the Future when he starts ripping the guitar solo at the end of Johnny Be Good, and the audience is like, they weren't hearing that, man. They didn't want to hear that. But anyway, guys, just something to think about, because I threw that out there. What makes a part caster, and didn't get an answer. Did a little research and came up with the 1/3 rule that's out there, and I found it's quite applicable. And if you apply it out there to a lot of cats' guitars, maybe even your own. Because again, if you do a hardware swap, you turn it, that's 1/3 of the guitar. You turned it into a parts caster. 17 years old and playing all the drums. 17. But he said no, because he graduated from high school. He had to be. He couldn't have been 7 because he was because then that maybe I guess he was born in 1958. He was born June 7th, 1958. So how old would he be in 78 when that album came out? 20. So yeah, he's 20 at the time. Your kids are gonna love it. Yeah, dig that. That reminds me of that. Anyway, um, so yeah, there's that. You know, it's funny with the big YouTube channels. Ben Allmark. Mike, on the Sunset Strong YouTube channel, there's a few different interviews with the cats that made music with Prince. Oh yeah, I've seen every one. I've seen every one of those. His engineer, because she worked there, Susan Rogers. I do believe recently Dr. Fink was there. Yeah, I've watched every one of those, as well as listened to some of the outtakes. Especially there's one of him just playing piano, rehearsing piano. Where you get to hear Prince just playing piano, just in the piano that he loved in that room. Frank Zappa, I love Zappa, but you have to understand that Zappa is the godfather of rock in a lot of ways too, and especially with the Mother's Invention, but his influence on the Laurel Canyon scene and his influence on other musicians who came up through Laurel Canyon is really where not musically. There's some things that I think that only he really could play. To be honest with you. But I love Zappa. I've been into Zappa since my friend Drake Gooseby introduced me to them. He's like, hey man, you gotta listen to this guy Frank Zappa. And he puts on some record, and yeah. So definitely up there with me. But because of his intellect. He's the guy who said one of these days, the facade is gonna fall down and you're gonna see the brick wall behind the facade, and you're gonna truly know you're screwed. I was like, wow, that's a deep statement. Yeah, he's really before his time. And Ben, you're reading Laurel Canyon book now. Yeah, guys, if you want to have some holiday reading, something to read, read the novel. I don't know, it's online. I think I've shared this with you before. Is the Strange Occurrences in Laurel Canyon? Or Ben, is that the one you're reading? The Strange Occurrence in Laurel Canyon. Guy, he's passed away. But he did a lot of research into Laurel Canyon to the point where his death at a time when it was just starting to get popular and people were talking about it is another conspiracy theory thing out there. But it will break down Frank Zappa's role in Laurel Canyon and what that really was happening up there, what it was really about. It's something to check out. But I'm not a big YouTube channel by any means. And I have no team. I started reading that one, but came to find that he reads this one first, so I stopped and started. Yeah, I got you. Sounds like a good read. Yeah, it's a crazy novel, guys. You're gonna read that, and if you haven't fallen down the rabbit hole, it's one of the reasons why. Meaning the guy who wrote it. Yeah, I got you. It's one of the reasons I wrote the song on the Asanoki album, Down the Rabbit Hole. It is that book, reading that Laurel Canyon book, blew my mind so much that it was one of the reasons why I wrote the song Down the Rabbit Hole. It's one of the things, that's the central theme of what that song is about. Don't generally like to talk about what my songs are about, because I like, whatever your imagination says. But in this case, I will say that book led me to write that song. I'll give you an example. This shows a picture of a very young Jim Morrison standing on the bridge of a destroyer with his father, Admiral Morrison. Um, and he has a very short crew cut. He's wearing a super Leave It to Beaver 60s style, short plaid shirt and khakis. And he looks as clean cut as hell. The author then shows a picture of 1 year later. He's living up in Laurel Canyon, his hair is long, and he's dressed like a hippie. By the way, it was his father who made the call on starting the Vietnam War. So you got to really wonder what that movement again up there in Laurel Canyon was really about and who was really calling the cards up there. What that this author breaks it down and he talks about it, and the role of a lot of the musicians up there. Most of the parents of the musicians of that time were in Navy and Army intelligence. They came from those kind of backgrounds. Most of them. With the exception of Joni Mitchell. But her background is what it is. I love the conspiracy theory stuff, especially the ones that turn out to be true. Like, well, this guy, it's not a matter of truth, it's a matter of historical fact. That's the thing that blew my mind. Because conspiracy, whatever. But yeah, it's really hard to draw that kind of mental state of going from this Leave It to Beaver guy and 1 year later being the head of, you're wearing tight pants, no shirt, your hair is longer and continue to get longer. Meanwhile, your dad is an admiral in the Navy, involved in the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Okay, sure. Interesting. Anyway, guys, I have no team. I started to think, but somehow I'm able to pull this off. But I realize that I do have a team, and that team is each and every one of you guys. I could not have done this year without it. And, there were times when I was feeling low. We all have our ups and downs, but I was just going through some tough times. and mentally. For a lot of different reasons, health being one of them. And sitting down here on Sunday nights was very cathartic for me. It was really good for me to be able to just talk and have the interaction with you when there was days where I was too ill or too weak to even go out and myself. And I said, I'm going to pull the strength together to do a live stream, and you guys never disappointed. You always came with the love. And so I want to say thank you for this year. I want to give thanks to each and every one of you for supporting this channel. Thank you, Maddie. That's why I don't just sit here and freeball it. I actually sit down over the course of the week, actually, so it's got some thought into it, and come up with a theme for the show and topics that I think that are not always the same, enough difference in there that are always interesting, and that we can throw back and forth. You pee on, like Prince used to say, you pee on a little bit, I'll pee on a little bit, we'll see what grows. And I think that's with this channel. Maybe this is a terrible analogy. Wrong kind of channel. This isn't OnlyFans. But each one of you guys contributing to this in your own ways have made it so that I have the strength to go forward and do it and make it what it is. This year was a monster. Glad we all made it. This year was a monster, Tommy. I absolutely agree. With the passing of TJ, my boy, that broke my heart. Still broke my heart. I still sit here and think about it. It breaks my heart today. I was heartbroken about it. It'll heal in time, but it was just, and all the other things, and this business, some business things going bad, some things not going great. My health, all those things. It was a hell of a year. So let's put it behind us. Cat's Music Journey. Your Sunday night lives got me through many ups and downs, man. So thanks to you. Oh, man. Thank you, man. It's a two-way street, I guess, is what's coming out here. And again, like I said, that's why I say, hey man, if you better muster yourself up and get up here and do it. And boy, howdy, am I glad that I do, because you're a fantastic audience to have, full of great people from all over the world. And I just want to say thank you guys. Yeah, that's funny, wasn't it, Patrick? Man, dude has congrats on the consistency too, Mike. You nailed it this year, man. Great achievement. Yeah, there were some days where I felt like death on a soda cracker. And I would sit here and I'd prop myself. Whenever you see I've got two pillows here in the back, you know it's a jury. Mike's in trouble. And I would prop myself up, pop a couple of aspirin and just say, okay, well, let's do it, and more or less, yeah, we made it through with some consistency. Yeah, consistency is really important. It is, and so let's see this audience grow this year. If you haven't subscribed to this channel and you've just been kind of waiting in the background, hit the subscribe button. Let's grow this channel. The more people we have, the more the message gets out there. So let's make that a goal of this year. We've got 2,100 and what is that? Yeah, 2,150 subscribers right now. Basically 2,200 subscribers, and so let's try to double that this year. That's my goal, is to see this turn into, YouTube. You get to a certain point, it builds from the 1,000 up to this point. It goes very quickly, but from this point to the next goal, which is 6K, it gets a little tougher. So I can't do that without you guys. If you've been waiting in the wings, hanging out in the background, just kind of strafing through, and you like what you see, hit the subscription button. That'd be great. So that's a goal I have, a New Year's resolution I wanted to throw out there that I have for this channel. And again, just to say thank you guys. Thank you so much for the support that you've shown over this year. Be safe out there. Don't do anything crazy for New Year's. Don't drink too much. Don't blow yourself up with these fireworks. Man, these fireworks they have over here, I thought when a kid, the stuff we had back in the 70s was dangerous. This stuff that they have over here is crazy. They use it to blow open ATMs, okay? It's like, so tomorrow night it's going to be a boom fest here. I'm going to keep myself in. Actually, I'm going to see, I know this is going to sound a little, ooh la la, but as you know, I like live orchestras. So I'm treating myself to go see a ballet tomorrow at the National Ballet. I'm going to see Tchaikovsky ballet tomorrow, and it should be nice. Enjoy that. I actually like the ballet, man. I never thought I would get into it, but I saw that one last year, the Nutcracker, and it was something. It was enchanting, actually. And seeing the orchestra and hearing that music live is really great too. So that should soothe the savage soul for me tomorrow and usher in a nice New Year's for me. So I hope you guys enjoy your day tomorrow as well and your New Year's. And I will see you again coming up next week. And thank you so much, Ben. Thank you so much. Patrick, wait a minute. Is it Sunday? Well, it's Sunday now, according to my watch. All right, guys. Have a good one, guys. Happy New Year's. Bye-bye.